Greetings, Mind Crafters, and welcome to another Minecraft discussion. My name is Kimberly Quinn. I'm out here with Giovanni, who's right there. And we are your host and hostess with the most and mostest. And today, I'm not really sure why. And I'm sure there's a reason deep in the vault that I'm really kind of excited to talk about detachment as a skill set. And I'm a big fan of skills, and I've talked about that before where, a talent's good too. The combination is really great. You want to keep the Michael Phelpses and the Mozarts and the Nadi Comaneci's and, and that's just cool. And the Einsteins and everything else. And also all the talent of the rest of us. Doesn't have to be like you're, famous and everything like that. But talent's good, God-given talent. Skill sets, I'm really super, I'm under a gazebo now because it's kind of raining, which is great. I mean, it's like super contemplative, and the drops in the pond are really pretty. Anyway, so I like skill sets because we can learn to do it. It gives us autonomy, and especially if we're feeling, there's so much anxiety out there, currently, definitely in the U.S. and I'm sure all over the place. And so a lot of times that means that we're feeling kind of out of control, and skill sets can help us feel like we have some agency, like we're in control, and give us that more comfortable, safer, secure feeling, depending on what it is we're trying to learn, right? And so detaching, the 12 steps programs use it, I know, and which is also includes, in addition to all the anonymouses. Well, actually, this is still an anonymous. Codependence Anonymous uses it too, because sometimes people we love a lot, whether it's a partner, or it's different when they're a child or a teenager, but when they're an adult child and they're engaging in some really bad choice making, that might be obviously there's all the wraparounding before you ever get to that place. I'm not saying that, but when it becomes unhealthy for the people taking care of them, so like with a severe addiction, let's say, sometimes it's a situation of you never stop loving them, but sometimes you have to detach, when it's something like that. And tough decisions to make with that example. But I wasn't even thinking of something so severe as that. I was thinking more everyday pettiness and things like that, because it can be so tempting to just dig in. It can be very tempting. And remember that we talked about this, maybe it was a year ago now, maybe even two, I don't know. Let's just say what it is. So the Sanskrit word shenpa means to... basically, it's a word that you can't always directly translate things, right? It's a word that means like to dig in. So when somebody says something, gives you some snark, or tries to undermine you at your place of work, that got in with somebody by being manipulative or whatever, and we just know it's wrong, and it's hitting our bone marrow that it's wrong, and we just want to dig in. We just want to dig in and say something, do something, talk about it a lot with people we trust and everything, and we should process. I'm not saying that. But the Shenpa thing is like that, where we just want to, just have such an urge that just struck a chord in us. As they say, got your goat. And really, as tempting as that is, and I think we all know, it's been a fabulous 58, I definitely know. I mean, you live not very long, and you can know what that feeling is like. Because sometimes, it's just legit just petty behavior. Somebody's just acting out, and they're obviously coming from a place of brokenness, because people who are whole and complete don't behave like that. It's a good one to try to remember. It can be a tough sell when you're in it, right? But it is true that hurt people. We're walking around feeling good about who we are in our skin. We don't have a, full of gratitude, full of forgiveness. We don't generally have a desire to harm anybody. So that's not the place that they're coming from. But the detachment thing in everyday life, is such a tremendous skill, and it takes patience, which I'm a work in progress with that. I mean, the good Lord put a lot of gifts in my gift bag, and my husband would probably laugh the hardest. Patience just wasn't one of them, so I'm constantly working at that. What has helped with that is mindfulness, actually, because the more we practice mindfulness, remember, that doesn't mean we're sitting, zen on a floor someplace. You can do that, and that's great. Out here is a great example. When G and I are done with the video, that's exactly... We're going to go walking and just listen to the raindrops. They're also tip-tapping on this roof here, and just engage with all of it. And so mindfulness can really help us detach, because when we practice mindfulness, which just means being in the moment, right? So just washing the dishes with warm water, being in the shower, having a conversation, being out in the woods, cooking, gardening, whatever it is you're doing, the more you're actually in your mind and in your body, mindfully, the less apt you are to react, right? So we have react, which is like the knee jerk, and which is the shenpa thing, and we have respond. And when somebody's practicing mindfulness, again, going in their day, going throughout their day, just doing what they're doing, just doing it, being present, is far less apt to engage in shenpa, is far less apt to react. They're more likely to respond, take in the facts, observe, maybe dip into the restroom or something if they need to collect their thoughts and they're not in a place where they can, have any privacy. It's always the restroom. People aren't going to bother you in the stall. They don't know what you're doing in there. And so to really detach from the prickly pears is what we're talking about. It's a great skill set. You can nod and smile, and not nodding and smiling where it's obvious, like you're being sarcastic and proving a point. It has to be a really mindful, authentic, kind of realizing that as snarky as they're being or whatever they're saying, try to manipulate and do whatever they're doing. Underneath it all, you get it. They're coming from a place that's out of alignment, right? They're just out of alignment. And again, we're not giving them a pass. No one said that. We're just saying to take care of you, because we can also another reason to detach. Really, we need to climb back. Well, as when we realize we're out of where we've been pulled out of our frame. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm just watching G at the same time because things are starting to wake up here. It's the end of April. These will be aired in May. Cause these are usually like a week and a half-ish ahead. I mean, film them now, like week to 10 days out. So we can feel like we need to detach when we find ourselves, and this is about us, right? Not the snarky one. But if we're really vying for somebody's approval, that we need to really focus on that, get back in the frame, detach, because when we are concerned about other people liking us, then that means what they think of us is more important than what we think of us. That's self-abandonment. And anything worse you can do to yourself than that. So that's another time to detach. I don't care if they're your boss. You don't have to like your boss, and they don't have to like you, and neither one of you has to talk about it or acknowledge it in any way whatsoever. I mean, you can just smile and nod and realize that not everybody can like everybody. As long as you do what you need to do for your job and whatever, that's all that really matters. And you can come into that realization, because you can't force that stuff. It's not, how can I get them to like me? You can't get them to like me, like you, whatever. You can't, because they're in control of who they like. So it's best to detach from that whole idea. They're gonna like you if they like you, and they're not if they're not, and that's how it goes. And so it's really important to bring the approval meter back to the inside and get back in your frame. It's also not different when people talk about their reputations. Oh, I want to establish a good reputation. Well, you can't really do that, because your reputation is in other people's heads. So what you can really do is present your best self, your highest vibe, aligned, most authentic self, and let go of caring about any of it. And what's funny is, if you've ever noticed as far as approval seeking and detaching from the need to do that, if you ever notice the people walk in the room with swag, he's got his ears up. Hopefully that's nothing. It's also raining. Stuff comes out when it's raining. I'm just saying. But somebody walks in with that authentic confidence. They got loads of approval going on all over the place. If you really take a look at their energy and just watch them walking around the room, they've got the room because of their charisma, and they don't give a fat rat's ass if anybody approves of them. And therefore, more comes in. More approval, because they're so solid and confident in their own frame that they don't need it. The less you need it, the more comes. It's just how the universe works. So the detachment thing is actually very, very Buddhist, because, and I'm certainly not a flying high expert on it. I have a good basic knowledge of Buddhism, I guess, like most people, and then a little bit more for Minecraft, because that's worked in, but I'm definitely no expert. And the Buddhists would say that attachment to things is really where suffering comes from. Genuine love, genuine free love isn't, attachment's coming from the ego, and like attachment to stuff and to, circumstances and situations, and even attachment to people is not the real loving thing. The real loving thing. I'm thinking of the one exception I'm thinking of is obviously little baby infants. We want them to attach because little baby infants don't quite, understand the higher love thing just yet. Or I shouldn't say that. We can't really ask them, can we? So they probably got it down better than we do. But, obviously the early attachment's kind of a different thing. But what we're talking about is genuine love. Doesn't try to manipulate, doesn't need approval, doesn't need any of it, doesn't need the kudos, doesn't need the acknowledgement, doesn't need any of that. And so our authentic self, feeling whole and healthy and complete in her or his or their frame, is detached from all that and just focused on the prize, which is all that authenticity going on and being in alignment with that wonderful source with a capital S. Call it universe if you want. So that's it. Detachment is a great skill set. Again, I'm a big fan of skills because just when you have success with it, or when you're aware you have success with it, you might be doing it and not even know, but it just feels so good because you can still be full throttle in with caring about a person, a friend, or somebody at work even, or and then you just realize you're stepping out of a not healthy situation, but still you can still you're still interacting, you're just not engaging whatever it is that you're not in favor of. And you'll also feel really good. These successes are great. It's a deposit in the self-esteem bank. And when you are able to step out, when you catch yourself in a situation where you're seeking approval, even if it's a power differential, it's a boss or a professor or whatever, you step out of that respectfully and they don't know. Remember, this is called being quietly effective. When you're like in prove a point mode, that's all the ego. Notice that I'm pissed. Notice that I know that you don't like me. That's all ego. Just quietly effective, taking the high road's another word for it. It just feels so good because the weight is lifted off of you. It just feels so good to detach from other people's petty, snarky, or manipulative behavior. It just feels so great. It's freeing. It's so liberating. It's freaking awesome. Okay, so that's it. What do you say, G? She's getting a lot of good smells here because it's, if you quote-unquote spring. So there's a lot of earthy smells. He's having a grand old time. Okay, this is Kimberly Quinn signing off from the beautiful woods in northern Vermont. Have a mindful day.